two writers, one just starting out, the other a bestseller. Join James Blatch and Mark Dawson and their amazing guests as they discuss how you can make a living telling stories. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Hello and welcome to the Self-Publishing Formula Podcast with Mark and James from the UK, and this is the third in the three we're recording in this particular batch. We're always very honest about our batching. In fact, batching is something that people should be aware of when they have busy lives, particularly if you're juggling a 9-to-5 job and writing. Batching is a very good way of approaching your workload. James Batch, that's what they call me. And this episode is all about making your life, easier, but also more effective by using the tools that are available. And Mark, there's never been a better time to be a writer, right? In terms of what's available.
Yeah, there's tons of things. I remember when I started writing, half these things didn't exist. So this is, it's going to be a fun one. So a bit of background context. We wanted to do the indie author toolkit. So software really for the kind of software that we use to make our lives easier. And originally it was going to be things that I picked. So I picked 10 things that I couldn't do without. But then because I'm a lazy bugger and because I thought it would be more interesting to kind of crowdsource this, I posted a question into the SPF Facebook community and asked people to, first of all, to tell me the three things that they use, they couldn't live without. And then I put together I compiled a compilation of the, say, 40 or 50 top ones that were represented, and then asked people to vote for three of them. So what we've done is created a top 10 with some honorable mentions of the things that people relying on and using to make their jobs more efficient and get their books out quicker.
Okay, so you've got a top 10 and honourable mentions. And how, out of interest then, so when you looked at the crowdsourced list, how closely did it match your own top 10?
I would say looking at the top 10 now, the top 3 would probably be the same for me.
Okay.
So there's a few in there. One in particular in the top 10 that I hadn't used before, and I'm now interested enough to look at that in a bit more detail because it looks quite fun. But yeah, I mean, I'd say even the top 5 or the top 6. I mean, the top 10 are pretty much would be ones that I would say were important for me as well.
Okay, so do you want to do? We're going to do the honourable mentions first, and then in traditional countdown style, do 10 down to 1.
Yes, the traditional countdown style makes me think of poor dear departed Richard.
Bless him.
Richard Whiteley. Anyway, yes. So yeah, honourable mentions. I just realised that reference will go completely over the heads of everyone outside of these shores. But anyway, we'll move on from there. So the honourable mentions. I'll mention a sentence or two on each of these. We start off with K-Lytics, which is. James is frowning. He doesn't know what that is.
I don't know.
K-Lytics is a service whereby reports are generated looking at niches and genres that may be underserved. So kind of high demand, low competition niches that it would be good if you're looking to write to market. And you can also pay them. There's a guy called Alex who was on the science fiction and fantasy marketing podcast not too long ago. You can actually pay them to produce specific reports on something you're particularly interested in. So it's a data service that will enable you to make decisions about your writing.
Okay.
Next one is
actually just before we do the next one, because I know people will be writing down details now, or if they're jogging or driving, finding it difficult to do that. We will, of course, produce a PDF with all of these listed in them, and you can download that PDF at selfpublishingformula.com/toolkit, TOOLKIT. And that PDF will be a good, handy resource for all authors at whatever stage of your career you're in.
Yeah, and full disclosure, some of those links will be affiliate links. So not all of them. I think maybe 3 or 4 will be kind of we get a little cutback if people go to sign up for them.
But on the same token, we only recommend stuff genuinely that we think is going to be worthy of being in. There's absolutely no question whatsoever of us putting a link in there simply because it's an affiliate link for us. It's a total coincidence.
If I say something, you can be absolutely sure that I stand behind it. So the next one is Story Shop. So that is a story planning software suite, I suppose, that was initially created by the Sterling and Stone guys. Then they've sold sold that to somebody else. So I think it's still being developed, but I know we had a fair few people were using that. Next is Twitter. So not making it into the top 10, probably coming in the top 20, but as a service that people are using to maybe find readers. Next is Evernote, so kind of a cloud-based note-taking application that enables you to write. I think you can write kind of full articles or stories on there as well, but also specifically to take notes and then have them link around your various devices. We've got Calibra, which is, do you know what Calibra is?
It's an alcohol-free beer.
Yes, yeah. It's also a piece of formatting software. It also enables you to do clever things like take MOBI files and EPUB files and then punch them out as doc files. So something I've done, I've used Calibra for, is to download old books from Amazon, so from KDP, have them downloaded as MOBI files, and then if I don't have that version on my laptop because I've lost it for some reason, you can then save it, and you can also turn it into a Word document, so you can actually then amend it, then turn it back into a MOBI file with Vellum or something like that, and upload it again. So very useful piece of software that's completely free. Instagram comes in that top 20. Google Docs, some people will write on Google Docs. It's writing into the cloud, not going to be too worried about losing stuff, redundancy. Dropbox is the same, so another useful piece of software that enables you to make sure you're backed up. Excel coming in quite low. That would be in my top 10 just because I like spreadsheets. I know you like spreadsheets.
I love spreadsheets.
But not all authors do, so it's I think it's important, but not hitting the top 10. Drag and Dictate is one of the other honorable mentions. So the market-leading dictation software, which I'm using at the moment and enjoying quite a lot. Grammarly is a piece of software, web-based software. You upload your document, and then you'll get grammatical suggestions. It picks up. It's supposed to improve your writing.
Do you use Grammarly yourself?
No, because I'm a really good writer, and I don't need to. But also, that I'm being flippant there. No, it's. I am a little bit. We'll get to another one in the top 10 actually that beat Grammarly, but I am slightly wary of those kinds of pieces of software because sometimes I deliberately will write an ungrammatical sentence for another reason. So I know you can choose to accept or reject changes, but sometimes I don't necessarily want to be told that something is not grammatically correct because I may have written something that way for rhythm. For effect, could be a number of reasons why I've written something that way, and computer says no might not always be the answer I want to hear. We'll go into that a bit more in a minute, but we get to Pro Writing Aid. And then finally in the honorable mentions, Photoshop. So people, if you're doing covers or ads, Photoshop is good. It's very expensive. Not too expensive. With the kind of the cloud version now, the monthly creative license they do, it's not
Creative
quite so
Cloud,
expensive.
yeah.
That's it, Creative Cloud. But there are alternatives, and we'll see one of those alternatives in the top 10. So,
okay.
Those are the honorable mentions. Any comments on those?
Well, I mean, I would throw in something I found really useful, which is called Novel Factory, which is a service created by a UK guy. It is a paid service, but not very much. And it just helps you do a lot of the stuff you need to get down before you start the writing process. So structuring character and plot and locations. And it's a really good way. I know people I know you're going to talk about Scrivener, obviously. I'm sure it's going to be in the top 10. And people who are expert Scrivener users will find a way of doing all of this in Scrivener. But Novel Factory makes it a very nice interface. Make sure that you keep in touch with the consistency that you need across the characters and times and dates and weather, etc. that you create. So I really like Novel Factory. But yeah, good. So that's the also rans, and now we're into the top 10. We need top 10 music. Dun, 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 dun. Probably in copyright though.
Yes, possibly issues there. Anyway, so yes, number 10. Speaking of Grammarly, number 10 is Pro Writing Aid. So I've looked into this a little bit. I'd heard of it, but I hadn't done much digging into it. So I had a little look this morning, and I have to say I am quite intrigued by what it offers. So you basically upload your manuscript to Pro Writing Aid, and it then comes back with a series of reports. So it could be things like you're using the passive voice too much, or it could be one thing I think I would benefit from, and it's kind of, this is picked up by Jenny, my editor, but overuse of words. Now, it could be in the same paragraph. So occasionally you'll have the same paragraph, and you only really notice that when you hear it read back to you. It's like, oh, I used that word 3 sentences ago. Should have chosen something else. Or using unusual words. So I will occasionally show off with weird words that I like. Not as much as I used to, because it's pretty daft. But if you use words like, I don't know.
Gunned for the engine.
Yeah, gunned would, or a good one I used to use quite a lot. Chiaroscuro, which, so that means kind of, I've butchered that pronunciation, but it means kind of a glow around something. Or corona, that's another one, kind of a glow around something. So if you use an unusual word more than once in the same 80,000 word book, people will notice you've done that.
Yeah.
And it's quite hard to see that, but this would pick up that kind of repetition and would give you the chance to change it. Also, it's got things like an inbuilt thesaurus. So if you're using the same word more than once, it will say you've used this 10 times. How about one of these alternatives? And then you pick a synonym and off you go. So I think I don't know how much it costs. I know very little about it.
I can tell you exactly how much it costs. So we'll up on the screen in front of me. So it's $50 a year, 75 for 2 years, 100 for 3 years, or lifetime access for $175. Now, there's an add-in, interestingly here, called plagiarism, which I guess is going to spot whether you've inadvertently plagiarized somebody else, and that's a premium plus option. Let's see how much that costs. So that means you'll be paying $60 a year, or $95 for 2 years, or $130 for 3 years, or $285 for lifetime.
So there's not really enough hours in the day for everything I want to do, but I would be quite interested to test that out. So maybe at some point I'll mess around with that and report back. But it was picked by a lot of people who came back in the survey. So definitely one to look at, and scored better than Grammarly, which is the one that gets is better known. They advertise quite regularly on YouTube, things like that. So I thought that was quite interesting.
Well, that's good. And that came recommended by quite a lot of people in the community. And it was interesting that you hadn't touched it yourself so far. That was you described yourself as lazy at the beginning, but there was a rhyme and a reason to go to our community and ask them what they're using at the moment. That sort of thing comes up from it.
No, I'm not lazy, but it was, it was useful to get some alternative opinions. So that was number 10. So number 9, counting down, is KDP Rocket. So that is piece of software produced by Dave Chesson, who is a very nice guy. He's been on the podcast before, I think. Has he been on the podcast?
Yes, he has. Yeah, Dave has been on talking about KDP Rocket. Yeah, and
I've been on his podcast. He has a kind of coffee with authors 15-minute podcast. I've done that with him. He has a big community. He's very good on YouTube. So Dave's got 10,000 followers on his YouTube channel. And what Rocket does is a piece of software that enables you. Does a number of things, but the thing that most people use it for is to generate lots of keywords for Amazon marketing campaigns. So if you're doing sponsored product campaigns, you're going to need lots of keywords that people are searching for. And I haven't spoken to Dave about exactly how Rocket does this, but I imagine it's interacting with an Amazon API in some capacity and is pulling lots of keywords. If you want to, say you wanted Cold War bombers, looking at one behind you, you would then be able to find a list of other terms that people search for to get to that same result. Yeah.
I mean, I remember from the interview, there was a significant investment in coding at the beginning. This is not a little bit of scraping software. This is an engine to this, which is very proprietary that Dave's created. And the price for KDP Rocket is $97. Unusually, I think, a fixed price, a little bit like Scrivener rather than a subscription. So $97 buys you that for life. And I should say that if you're listening and you are enrolled in Mark Dawson's Ads for Authors course, there is a discount to KDP Rocket buried in the the excellent session that Dave's done on how to find the right keywords anyway. And he talks about KDP Rocket as an aside in there, and there's a discount code there. Good.
Yeah. So that's Rocket. So I use that. It's very nice. It's nicely put together. It looks good. It's quite easy to use. So I would say that would have been in my top 10. The next one, which would be definitely in my top 10 and would be higher probably, is Book Report. So Book Report is, again, a piece of software written by a guy called Liam, and I don't know his second name actually, but he has pulled this piece of software together. And what it does is it basically takes your KDP sales data, including sales and page reads, and produces that in a format which is visually appealing. The ground was, before Amazon changed the dashboard for KDP, the book report was like, I would say it was indispensable because the dashboard used to be dreadful. They've made some changes that have improved the dashboard about 95%. But even with those changes, I would say book report is still worth having because it will take last month's page reads, page, the amount you get per page read, and will on the fly give you an idea of how much you could expect to have made from your sales and your KU reads the day before, and in real time as well. You can also ask it to go back for lifetime, last year, last month, last 7 days, custom, whatever you want. Do it by book, do it by geography. It's really useful software, and it costs. It's free up until you hit a certain level. So I think once you start making $1,000 a month, then you have to start paying for it, and when you hit the $1,000, it comes in at $19 a month, which I think is pretty good value. He got lots of stick. He doubled the price from $10 to $19 about 3 months ago. Got lots of stick for that. I still think I use it every single day, multiple times on my phone. So sadly, it's one of the first things I look at in the morning is how much money I made the day before. I think it's good value for that convenience. So yes, definitely recommended, and it came in number 8 out of our top 10.
Good, excellent. Yeah, it does get a very good rap from the community, that one. Okay, number 7.
Number 7 is Canva. So Canva, we talked about Photoshop. Canva is a free alternative to Photoshop, whereby you can, if you want, you could do a cover, or you could do ads, or you could do graphics for blog posts, graphics for Facebook posts, anything you wanted to. Canva has a number of preset templates that enable you to put those images together. Stuart Bache, who's done our cover design course, Stuart obviously is a very talented designer and needs the power of something like Photoshop. But Stu has also produced for us a little kind of, not so much little, a course that would enable people to use Canva if they don't want to pay for Photoshop to put their book covers together. So it's powerful enough to do almost everything that you want to do until you get to a certain level, and you start looking at gradient maps and all those kinds of funky things that really make your covers look really super professional. But yeah, Canva is free and pretty easy to use.
Yeah, I mean, it's free, so you get a fairly comprehensive service for free, where it has lots of sort of stock imagery, not stock images in that sense, but design images that you can use. And I use it for things like the cricket club that I help out and do the newsletters and stuff. So I found it really useful. I've also created Facebook ads for SPF in there. There are paid options within it in that you can pay for slightly better, well-designed and rarer images to work with. And I think there is now an upgraded service that gives you all of that as part of your monthly fee. And I can't tell, I'm clicking around. Unfortunately, it's directed me to, annoyingly, sign up, start your 30-day trial, rather than telling me how much it is. But, here we go. Finally, I've got there. So it's $12.95 a month for that. But you don't, or $9.95 a month if you pay yearly, $119 bucks a year. But you don't necessarily need it. And I certainly wouldn't advise jumping straight in on that with Canva. You'll find a lot of Canva. It's very useful for free. And it's even if you do end up paying for that, that's actually a pretty good value.
Indeed. Okay, so number 6 is this social network called Facebook. Never really heard of it before.
Never catch on.
Some people... anyway, we don't say too much about that, but we had some people in the community going, "Yeah, I don't use Facebook. You can't sell books for social media." Okay, fair enough. I'm not sure how I've managed to do it over the last 4 years, but I think I've sold a few with social media. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean ads. So, I mean, Facebook is fantastic for advertising. The paid ads are great, but I mean, at the moment, I'm doing a number of kind of teasers as I've finished the new Milton book. I've been telling people I've finished and running a pre-order campaign with no ads, or minimal ads anyway. But most of that with mailing list signups and kind of Facebook organic posts, videos as well. I'll be doing soon, and I've got 3,500 pre-orders on that book so far. So people who say that you can't sell books with social media, I've got 3.5 reasons why.
Yes, there are 1,000
reasons why that's not true. So yes,
good.
I think it's the biggest of the social media platforms. The others are valuable, but this is coming at number 6.
And we should just want to add to that, because I think one of the reasons some people are resistant to it is they don't like the look at me culture of social media, which Facebook perhaps exemplifies. And here's my, I can't have a meal without photographing it, or I can't have the plumber around without moaning. But there are plenty of authors who will use Facebook without pushing themselves forward. And I see this all the time, actually, in this business, particularly people I've interviewed. I go to their Facebook page, there's maybe a little funky illustration from their books or a caricature graphic of one of their characters, and they do not put themselves front and forward, but it's a very effective author page for them and a platform for them to market their books. So you don't have to be part of that millennial generation who photograph every aspect of their life to be on Facebook.
Okay, so number 5 is Vellum. So Vellum is the best formatting software out there. It is really easy to use. It's nice. It's nice to look at. It is drag and drop. It takes something that would otherwise be quite difficult, taking your Word document or your whatever it is you're working from, and then creating an EPUB, a PDF, a MOBI file. It makes it really easy to do. And we've had the 2 Brads on the podcast before. I think in the first 20 or so episodes, they used to work for Pixar. At least one of them did, and that aesthetic is very obvious in their software. So pricing, you're probably looking at that now, but I think it's $299, something like that.
Yeah, so it's $249.99 for the full one, which includes paperbacks, or $199.99 for the ebooks only version of it. It's a single fee, and it lasts for life.
Yeah, I mean, I love Vellum. It's a really, really lovely piece of software. So
really is.
Strongly recommended if you're looking to format. There are other alternatives for formatting. If you don't want to spend that much, you could Drafted Digital have one. Reedsy has one. We'll pop those in the show notes as well. But for the kind of the best option, if you want to do it yourself, of course you can pay people to do it too. But the best option if you want to do it yourself is Vellum by miles.
Yeah, it's a really, really nice piece of software.
Okay, so number 4, speaking of, I think it would be a stretch to say this is a really nice piece of software. It's certainly not loved, but it is Microsoft Word. Mm-hmm. So I used to write in Word. Probably the first 3 Milton novels and everything before that I wrote on Word. Word is Word, so we all know what it is. We all know what it can do. It's powerful. It's robust. It doesn't crash too often. It crashes now and again on the Mac, but not too often. Problems with Word are that it isn't designed for 100,000 word documents. I don't think there are alternatives that make writing those longer text a little easier to swallow. But I use Word. Track changes is great. It's still, in my opinion, the best for track changes. And so what I'll do is I'll take my Scrivener file, I'll convert it into a Word document, I'll send that to my editors and my betas, and at that point I will work in Word rather than Scrivener. And then I'll take the Word document when it's finalized and upload that, convert it in Vellum to the formats that I need. So it's an important part of my process and would have been in my top 5.
Yeah, we should say that quite a few editors ask for it in Word. So whatever your personal preference for writing is, at some point you may need Word, because I found out that editors have said, I'd like it in Word, please, and these are the track changes, as you say. In terms of pricing, I mean, I'm old enough to remember Word being in its early stages, and there was one point, I think it was like £350, like $450 to buy it, and they've played with prices over the years. They've got it down now to a subscription service, which is the best way to buy it, I think, called Office 365. And in the UK, that's priced at £80 a year, so about $100 or £8 a month. And for that, you get the entire Microsoft Office suite. You get 1 terabyte of cloud storage, and you get 5 users. So that's the family version. There's a cheaper one, I think it's about £6 a month, but it's really good value, the $7.99. And you can share that. Like my dad has one of my licenses, and everyone in the family has it. So it's a very affordable thing now. And if, like us, you like spreadsheets, of course you get Excel with that, as well as all the other Office suite of programs. So yeah, good value it is now, having played with the price over the years a bit.
Yes, yes. Okay, so that's number 4. Number 3, the top 3 now. Very pleased to see BookFunnel at number 3. Again, BookFunnel, Damon Courtney has been on the podcast. James interviewed him in Florida at NINC last year. And Damon saw a problem and fixed it. And the problem he saw was that it's very difficult because Amazon is a walled garden, and the other e-readers are similar. It's very difficult to take a file and email it to someone and then get them to sideload it onto their device. It's possible when you factor in the fact that there's 4 or 5 different kinds of Kindles. There's Kindle Fires. There's the Kindle app on an iPhone. There are other e-readers. I know Damon told me he once had every single e-reader that you could purchase, including weird ones like Sony's and all that kind of stuff. And he has built a piece of software or kind of a service that enables writers to provide files, and then BookFunnel will get them onto the devices, regardless of what that device is, of readers. And I think I'm going to guess they've been going for about 3 years now, and maybe a bit less, 2 or 3 years. And I immediately saw this was valuable. We were one of the first people to support him. I think it was we had a bonus with one of the early courses, so people have got into BookFunnel through us in some ways. And as soon as I adopted it, I immediately cut out tons and tons of customer service emails that were not a good use of my time, teaching people how to sideload, even if it just was sending a pro forma email to them with a video or instructions. Having BookFunnel take care of that is a massive saving. And, it's great to see, a real indie company with 5 or 6 employees now to kind of come out of nowhere, fix a problem, and then, I don't know how many users he's got now, but it must be thousands now. So I'm really pleased for him because it's very well deserved.
Yeah, it's superb. As you say, there was a problem, a real ball ache, as we use an English expression, every day, a time sap, and that stuff costs money for authors. You can't write when you're looking after email queries, and there's always going to be some people find it really difficult to do some of the technical things, and the platform is excellent. And the other thing that's excellent about it is its customer service. I think BookFunnel have really good customer service, and Damon's always very happy for us to punt people his way when somebody can't download, because we use BookFunnel professionally. We have our SPF books on there, so our way of distributing them as well. In terms of the price, it's about $100 a year for an author with a few books out. There is a first-time author, so you can dip your toe in. $20 a year, really cheap, almost nothing. You get 1 pen name, you get 500 downloads a month, and up to 5 books with that. But you're probably looking at $100 a year option on $10 a month option to get going with your career. There are a couple of programs above that, so if you've got multiple pen names, etc., or you are a small publisher. I noticed that Damon also offers an option now for publishers themselves to use BookFunnel. So looking forward. I hope he's going to be at NINC this year, because he kills it at karaoke, and it's quite a sight to see a full-blown Damon Courtney karaoke session as well.
Yes, I haven't seen that, so I'm looking forward to that. Okay, so the top 2 now. Now, this is a vague one, so there was not much point in me breaking this down individually, but the number 2 is an email service provider. So basically, it's whatever you use to host your mailing list comes in at number 2. So again, there's been a few comments in the group over the last week or so with people saying that they don't see the point of a mailing list, or they've given up. Email lists don't work. Honestly, I can only say it so many times, and I try and be polite, even though I've dealt with these kinds of questions a lot over the years. And it's as simple as this: an email list is going to be your most valuable asset as a creative professional writing in the 21st century, bar none. It doesn't matter if you're writing novels or nonfiction, or if you're a musician, or if you own a gallery and you're selling art. You need to be able to reach your customers. And there are lots of ways to do that. A mailing list is the only one that you own. So you can, from MailChimp, download a spreadsheet of all of your subscribers. And I've got like 100,000 or so on MailChimp now, which costs me a lot of money. 350 quid a month to host that is expensive. But I have no problem paying that, because I know whenever I've got a book my books go out, the early sales, there could be 5,000 or 6,000 sales, will be generated just by people on my mailing list. So it's critically important, and that is even without considering the things you can do with it beyond emailing. So it could be generating a custom list for Facebook ads, or using that to generate a lookalike audience for Facebook ads, or recruiting advanced readers, or recruiting beta readers, getting reviews, motivation, putting people into Facebook groups where you can, as our friend John Logston did, using them to GM up after he got a bad review. There are so many. I think for 99% of people, this will be preaching to the choir. But for those 1% of people who doubt me or think that or disagree with me, I would say very strongly think about that carefully. You could not get me to dispense with my mailing list. It is actually that counts for the SPF side of things as well. We have a mailing list. That's how we tell people about the podcast and our courses. So it's crucially important and not really. I think people will be doing themselves a significant disservice if they don't take that seriously.
Yeah. And in terms of actual providers that we recommend or we would point people towards, have you? We can talk about the entry-level MailChimp and the mid-list and the high-list. Is there a path you want to go down there and giving some names out, or?
I'd say almost everyone should start with MailChimp. It is the simplest. It's very, very robust. They're adding features so you can do things like tagging people now that used to be kind of a ConvertKit level thing. So yes, MailChimp would be my recommendation. It's also free up to 2,000 subscribers, so it doesn't cost you anything. So there's no reason at all not to use that, and it's quite simple to use. It's covered in a lot of depth in the 101 course. Above that, ConvertKit would be, I would say, is about as far as anyone would need to think about going. We use Infusionsoft for SPF. We question ourselves now and again as to whether we need to do that. But ConvertKit is powerful enough for, I'd say, for anybody writing.
And I'll give a mention to MailerLite as well, because I'm starting to look more seriously at MailerLite. It gets a lot of people on in our Facebook group saying that they prefer it as a mid-list one because of the functionality and it's cheaper and the price.
Half the price, yeah. So it's a good option. Although they've had problems recently. They've had a spammer basically got in, blacklisted some of their servers, which meant that authors, some of whom in our community who had launches, found their emails were going into spam. And their service is pretty good, that they kind of fess up to things. They've made a few mistakes recently, one with regards to automation sequences, and then this one, which wasn't really their fault. But they do respond quite quickly. But that's the downside. With a small company like MailerLite, smaller than MailChimp, it will be more bumpy. I don't think it's likely that MailChimp are going to get blacklisted anytime soon. So, you pays your money, you takes your choice when it comes to that kind of stuff.
And ConvertKit, we do call ConvertKit. There was a brief time when we were going to call it Sever.
Yeah, they realised that was a terrible idea.
They rolled back on that.
They did.
Okay, because we should mention it because we did mention the name change at the time it was announced, and then subsequently there was a rolling back. So it is now back to ConvertKit. Good. Okay, so that is number 2 in the essential.
Yeah,
thing.
And number one
is
the courses of Mark. No, not really.
Does it? Does it rhyme with Rivener?
Yes, it does. It rhymes with Scrivener. Yes, so Scrivener is number 1. It was number 1 by a distance. Again, so this is another case of a small company based in the southwest of England. Well, not that many people know that, called Literature and Latte, and they realised I don't know all their history, but it's been around for a while. And I believe it's a programmer who's also a writer, wrote a piece of software that made it easier and more convenient to write those big documents that Word wasn't really built for. And he has now produced the piece of software that is, bar none, the most recommended when it comes to what you should use when you're writing. Everyone uses it, and it's not. I use it for other things as well. I use it for when I do presentations. The first draft I will do is in Scrivener because it's just so easy to drag and drop the cards around and change the order. And it's fantastic for writing. It's very powerful. It's a bit of a learning curve. I wasn't sure initially that I'd like it so much, but once you get used to it and you realize what it can do and how much time it can save you, I can't imagine using anything else now. So yeah, and obviously that's not just a view that I have. It's shared with, well, I mean, I'd say it was in the top 3 for most people. Not everyone, but it was number 1 by a way. So yes, Scrivener we're delighted to announce Scrivener as the number 1 item in the Indie Toolkit for 2018. Well done, Scrivener.
Well done, Scrivener, Literature and Latte. It is one of those bits of software that, when you start writing, within minutes of using it, you realize you're always going to be using this now. And I wrote my first novel in Word, and it was 100,000 words, and it was the most unreal. I mean, I used to double click it to open it and then sit there watching the pages load. You couldn't
Yes.
start working for the first 2 minutes. It was unwieldy. And then as for revising it and going back and finding stuff, Scrivener takes all of that hassle away, and to the point where you can just drag and drop scenes around the place if you want to start moving things around. And yes, it's a very, very, again, it's a problem that was there, that was answered by somebody. And price-wise, I think incredibly reasonable.
It's very cheap.
Yeah, $45 on Windows and Mac, and there's iOS versions that are cheaper than that, and you can buy a bundle, I think, of all the versions for $75. From a commercial point of view, I've always been surprised that they haven't gone down the subscription route, because I think if they charged everybody $5 a month,
Me too.
I think everyone would pay it and they'd probably make more money, but maybe that's not in what they want to do. He wants the software to be out there and be accessible. We haven't had the author on. I think we've asked him.
I think it's someone called Keith, actually. Now, I spoke to someone at Literature and Latte, and we were thinking about getting them on, but we never really followed through. But that would be something that we should do. Yeah, it would be good to get them on.
Yeah.
So their software is loved in the community, so it would be great to get them on.
Yeah, definitely. Good. So there we are. That is the top 10 Indie Toolkit, and you can get the PDF with all of those links. And as Mark says, 1 or 2 of them may be affiliate links, but they're in there on their own merits, of course. And you can get that at selfpublishingformula.com/toolkit. A really good one. That's actually a URL and a PDF that we should keep up to date over time if things change on that front. Good. I mean, that's actually, I suppose, one thing to say is you've just mentioned 15, 16 separate applications there. You don't necessarily need to go out and get all of those tomorrow to get going, but there are 1 or 2 key ones, and there are 1 or 2 areas that you will have your labor halved by investing in them. So, and then there's a bit of hassle at the beginning, like even BookFunnel. At the beginning, you've got to understand how it works. You've got to understand how to upload stuff. But once you've done that, it's a massive time saver. And all of this really is about being effective as a business and as a writer.
Yeah, and what I'd say is buy these things when you need them. So there's not, if you're just writing your first book, you don't need BookFunnel, because that's only going to be useful when you've got the book ready to go and distribute to readers. Same goes for Rocket or Book Report. If you're not selling any books, there's not much point having Book Report. So you get them as and when you need them. And most of these are pretty easy to use. There's a bit of as you say, there's a bit of a learning curve for some of them. And that if you've got the 101 course that we do coming out in September, so about a month from the time that this will go out, the tech library has tutorials on, I think, almost all of these. Certainly things like BookFunnel, Scrivener, we do compiling and all that kind of stuff. So it's most of these things will be covered in the tech library. That's something that we update all the time. And if we find that there's a couple there that we don't cover, we'll add those in so that it's always updated.
Excellent. Good. Well, you might have your opinions on any that we've missed. And if you want to give them an honourable mention, you can drop into our Facebook community. Just search for SPF Community on Facebook. One of the toolkit options that you need. Good. Mark, thank you very much indeed. From where we are now, so this is going out on the 31st of August, which means that we are very close to flying out to Florida in mid-September, and we are delighted to host an SPF drinks reception at NINC. You don't have to be enrolled in the conference. You can literally come along to the bar, the Sharktooth Tavern at the Tradewinds Resort in St. Pete Beach. We will buy you a beer on Wednesday, the 26th of September. Is that right? I haven't got the date in front of me. It's Wednesday, the 26th of September. Yeah, that's correct. And you may even get a pin, and you may even get a selfie with Mark Dawson.
And I wouldn't recommend it, but you can if you want.
And second prize is 2 selfies with Mark Dawson.
Aha!
And then John Dyer will be there as well, we should say, should you wish to have your photograph taken with the Dyer.
He's very cuddly.
He is very cuddly. Good. And thank you very much indeed, Mark, for putting the work into this episode. And thank you to everybody who contributed to it via our Facebook group. We are going to be back next week. And so in the meantime, we're going to say to you, with that toolkit, you can't go wrong. Have a good week writing and a great week selling your books. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Self-Publishing Formula podcast. Visit us at selfpublishingformula.com for more information, show notes, and links on today's topics. You can also sign up for our free video series on using Facebook ads to grow your mailing list. If you've enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a review on iTunes. We'll see you next time.